Hello, it's Colleen Lowe with the Born to Be Brave podcast and YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us today. You're going to love this interview. I'm interviewing Christina Ward. She's a Keller Williams agent, and I'm going to read you her bio, but she's an incredible human. And she just met with Gary Keller in a private, small group setting. She's going to share all her nuggets and knowledge with us and spread love and light. So listen to this. She's a top producing agent in Boise, Idaho, where everyone's moving. Christina has excelled in helping buyers, sellers, and investors meet their goals. And in 2013, she was named one of the Real Trends top 3 individual agents in Idaho. Christina also received the Idaho Business Review a 40 Under 40 award in 2011. I have chills. Isn't that amazing? She was nominated for Woman of the Year for Idaho Business Review in 2021. So that's this year. And she is currently the team leader of Christina and Company at Keller Williams Realty Boise. The team is ranked in the top 20 teams in Idaho by Real Trends. Her team has closed over 1,500 transactions. 91% of her team's sales come from referral or repeat business. Isn't that such a good idea? And the C & Co team not only sells a lot of real estate, they've also earned several hundreds of 5-star reviews from creating exceptional client experience. As a former collegiate athlete, Christina carries a drive for winning. She also loves serving her clients and sharing what she learns with others in the industry, hence the interview. Christina has ranked number 1 in 2018, 19, and 2020 in her office for donations to KW Cares, a local and national nonprofit, which made me love her even more. Her passion is to not only help buyers and sellers, but also realtors, especially you moms out there who are doing both, selling houses and raising magnificent children. She's a real estate teacher and coach, and she loves being a small part of other people's successes. In addition to her many professional endeavors, Christina lives in East End of Boise and adores her husband and 2 kids. And isn't that a blessing? Welcome, Christina.
Thank you, Colleen. It's so good to be here. The minute I talked to you on the phone, I loved you. So I just am honored to be in your presence today. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, you are so sweet. Oh my gosh, my goal is to spread love and light and to give people a mind map or a mind tools to process their life in positivity and light no matter what happens. And so I just appreciate you joining us today. And I want to ask you a question. The first question I want to ask you is about you. You just came from, let me just explain for people who maybe aren't in the real estate industry. We're both agents for Keller Williams, and it's a huge global real estate company. And Gary Keller started it a long time ago. And one of the cool things is that he invites the top realtors to come and be in masterminds with him, right? Why don't you tell me? I know you just came from one. What was the best part
Oh
of
my gosh.
being invited to that? And share with us what you learned and how does impact others, right?
Yeah.
Share
Well,
about.
that's like,
Go ahead.
we can learn so much from Gary. It's what he does for us is he wants to, if we just learn from his brain, that's just one person's brain, right? Like he wants to extract from his top agents and then share with the entire real estate world. So he's done this forever. He wrote his books around the best practices, models, and systems, and he asks the top agents to come meet with him. I have been meeting with him on Zoom the last year and a half. So this is our first in-person small group meeting.
Yeah.
And we are all like children that have been trapped, or like tigers trapped in a cage, I think, because like all ready to like get out and socialize. I think the biggest impact I had from spending 2 days with Gary Keller is we didn't talk about selling more real estate, right? We didn't talk about making more money. We talked about living a fulfilled life, a life like a true life by design. We talked about health, happiness, fulfillment, God, our families, and really making major impact on other people's lives. And real estate's just like a conduit for that.
Yeah. It's interesting that through real estate, the relationships we build with people, we can do that. And what is the one thing that you love that he shared with you the most? from that
He
experience?
started the day with asking 10 questions that I can send to you. They're very impactful questions about figuring out really who we are instead of
Questions?
what we want people to think of us or like the facade. And the questions even reflect on who do you want to be on your deathbed? Like, what do you want people to show up at your funeral and say about you? And that's where it really leads to that impactful conversation of how can we do more than just, nobody's going to come to my funeral. I hope nobody comes to my funeral and says, wow, she sold a lot of real estate, right?
Yeah,
Like, I
right.
don't like,
You don't want
like
that on
that
your headstone?
No, I didn't. I like that would be like, I feel like that was a failure of a life, right? And so these 10 questions, which I don't know if you have like a blog or a place like on social media where you can share the 10 questions.
Yes,
They're
we
questions.
will.
Okay, good. They're questions that he journals at this time of year every year to reflect on the year and plan for next year. And they're all about figuring out really who we are and how. So I don't know exactly who I am, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm working on that. Like I think that's life, right? Is figuring that out. What I
Yes.
know he asked me to pay attention to is what is our filter for making decisions? So now that we've reflected, journaled a lot, and thought about life and fulfillment and purpose, and so now it's like pull yourself outside of yourself and watch yourself. Because when we're in our own head, we're not paying attention to ourselves. Like we're not really aware. We're just acting. And so I've been watching myself the last 2 weeks since those meetings, and I've noticed, even though I've made a lot of progress around this, I'm still filtering what people think of me and making people happy and getting people to like me. And I think that's a major flaw and is going to cause me to not live a totally fulfilled life, right?
Yeah.
And so instead, like I've already worked on that part with clients, right? Like if we,
Mhm.
especially with the business the more people we help, the more people we're going to disappoint. And I can only think of like 3 clients out of the 1,500 that I think I'm like the worst realtor ever.
Yeah, but that happens.
Right?
We can't make everyone happy.
We can't. But then we focus on those 3 instead of the 1,400 something that we've gotten to bless and they've blessed us. And so I've made a lot of progress in brushing off the what people think of me thing, right, with
Mhm.
clients. But what I realized is I'm not there yet with my close relationships, the people I truly love. And there's still more work to do there. And that has been an incredible kind of transformational journey the last couple of weeks, truly watching myself and watching that there's opportunity to grow.
That's so powerful. And, Christina, I think we all struggle with that at some level every day, processing life through what will someone maybe think of me or think of this and I think the more we let go of that, the more free we are.
Mm-hmm. The more people we can truly help.
Because
You know,
you're more,
here's,
yeah, go ahead.
oh, here's me being trying to be perfect, right? Which is impossible.
Mhm.
Why did I come up with that idea? Like that's like just setting yourself up for failure. And so in my past before this more transformation, not even the last 2 weeks transformation, but I've gone on a transformational journey the last couple of years. I've realized that it's a waste of time. Like we can learn from our mistakes, we can make changes, and then we've got to move forward instead of just sitting in that like because my old self, my recovering perfectionist self would would lose sleep, too many tears, like I would spend too much time on things that didn't go just right.
We get to choose the movies we play in our head and the stories we
Mm-hmm.
tell ourselves. How do the people listening who are playing all their stories that are not serving them well, they're beating themselves up, they're focused on those 3 clients that aren't happy or wondering, what will people think of me? What are some steps or things that you have found to be helpful to help you release and let go of that? Especially, I used to be a perfectionist. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I used to use the word perfect in everything. Like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
want the perfect body. I want the perfect this, the perfect family, and I caught myself one day and I realized I can't have the perfect everything. It's unrealistic. There
Mm-hmm.
is no perfect anything. So what are some tips and strategies that people can implement into their lives that you personally have just found, even just one thing that you found to be helpful in releasing that?
I think my first thing is to just really know who we are, means that we're happy no matter what the result is.
Mm-hmm.
And really, truly letting go of the result that we do. We serve people, we do our very, very best, and do it with kindness and care, and we can't worry about anything else after that. Like, so to stop, to live in the moment versus live in the future or the past. I've really been working on that because I realized too a few years ago I was living more in the future or the past.
Mm-hmm.
And the tools that I've used to live in the moment are pretty simple. I have a deep belly breath timer on my phone.
Oh, you
So
do?
just like,
Is it an
yeah,
app?
yeah, it's just like the alarm. It just
Uh-huh.
says deep belly breaths, and it's like seems silly to remind yourself to take those throughout the day, but I also take them when I stop at stoplights. So I have a rule: I don't look at my phone when I'm stopped at stoplights. I take deep belly breaths.
Uh-huh.
I also have a hike time blocked in my phone, and I look for a friend to hike with me because I feel like that's a very meditative, very present. You're not on devices. You're outside, and then having great conversations. I also switched. I started saying no more to things that are a waste of time or that aren't improving my life or other people's lives. So I started saying no to lunches and coffee dates with people that request time of me. And instead, I'd say, I'm not going on lunches or coffee dates right now. It started in the pandemic.
Uh-huh.
And I said, I'm not going on those right now. I am going on hikes though. Would you like to go for a walk and talk, or would you like to go for a hike? And it gets some people to say no. So it's not me saying no, they're saying no because they don't want to do that. Or they're saying yes, and then they're doing it on my terms. So they're meeting at my office or my home. So it's saving a lot of time, and it's getting me outside, which I know is like really important for me to be present, is to be outside in the fresh air and have great conversations with folks. And then the last thing I've been working on is being in gratitude when I'm eating and exercising. I'm a pretty grateful person, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I move so fast that sometimes I'll eat and I don't even know what just happened. Like, do you do that? Like, you eat
Oh
so,
my gosh, I
like
eat
what
on the
happened?
road. I eat running all the time. I pack food with me. I take it to the hotels with me. Everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like crazy, and it's almost like a fight or flight situation where I'm like, it is an emergency. It seems like an emergency situation with eating. So what I'm working on with eating now is saying to myself, oh, who and what had to happen to get all this food on my plate? Like, what a miracle this food is to have arrived fresh and on my plate right now. And just really being in gratitude of the people and the plant. Pretty plant-based, the plants that are there, and like the time it took to arrive there. And then also in gratitude with exercise. I used to do exercise really fast and really stressed, like more burpees, bigger weights, faster, sweatier. And I broke my foot 2 years ago and got forced to slow down. And I decided I'm going to do more yoga, less burpees. Because did you know that yoga is a burpee?
Did you know yoga is my favorite thing in the world? I'll tell you. It saved my life. I'll tell you about that in a minute.
Uh, yoga, you do the practice of yoga. It is just like a burpee. It's just slowed down.
It's just way slowed down, right? Your sun salutation and down and then up, right? Plank,
It's a burpee.
uh, up and then back down again. It's exactly it. Just very mindful, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and here I am, like in fight or flight for most of my life because I move so fast. It's what has made me successful. And I realized that I need to slow down with some things. Maybe not everything. Like what got us here won't get us there is one of my favorite sayings. But really slowing down and being present in exercise and food eating has been transformational for me and my gratitude, and then getting into the moment instead of being ahead or behind the moment.
And don't you feel more peaceful?
Totally. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used to be like a type A personality and run, run, run. And it's so funny. The thing that got me into yoga, I've never shared this with anyone. That's so funny. Is my daughter. Yeah. My daughter went to a school that was a private school called Sage Hill High School in Newport Beach. And she was on the rowing team, but they could also pick what they wanted to do for PE. And she
Cool.
did yoga. And the yoga studio was in Seal Beach, right by our house here. And it was her senior year, and I was her last semester. I was panicked that she was going to go to George Washington University on the East Coast, 3,000 or
Oh,
4,000 miles away, or 5,000. I don't know how far it is, my geography. But I'm like, oh my gosh, one of my best friends is leaving me, you know?
your baby.
Yeah, my baby was dying. And so I would go to her yoga classes every day with her. I would just show up. And that's how I started yoga. And I can
Amazing.
remember, isn't that crazy? And Isabel used to say to me, the instructor, she's one of the, and she ran it. She would say, Colleen, your other left foot, you know, because I'm not.
Good
But
teacher.
it was really hard for me, yoga. I did not enjoy it in the beginning because I
Mhm.
was so used to running around at high speed. And by the time my daughter went away, I couldn't imagine not being present,
Mhm.
focused on my breath, connecting the breath. Isn't it crazy? And I like how you were saying you took time to notice the food and appreciate it.
Mhm. Or notice our bodies.
Hmm.
I'm so grateful that my body is moving today and lifting this weight or doing this vinyasa. Like I'm just so grateful that I'm able to move,
Hmm.
especially after I broke my foot in March 2020, which totally sucked.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
hard.
we got shut down and then I couldn't even like walk or do anything. And it really helped me realize, especially as a former college athlete, like how amazing I've gotten to live 39 years and use my body in a healthy way for so
Hmm.
long. And it was a good lesson on gratitude around how incredible these machines that we are living in are.
Yeah,
And
and
we only get one. We don't get to upgrade. Like we don't get a new car.
you can't trade your body in. That's what I was just telling the girl I took to the airport. Make sure you treat your body well. You don't get another one. You get one,
Yeah.
just one. You know, it's interesting that you talked about you were a college athlete, and I've listened to other interviews about you, and that you were an athlete in high school and college, and you went to a top ranked school. You played incredible, I think volleyball and swimming were your sports, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Mostly volleyball though.
Mostly volleyball. What lessons, because I feel like sports teach us a lot of lessons about real life. What lessons did you learn in playing volleyball at a high level that apply to life and that you can share some tips with the people who are listening right now about life?
I think we're the average of who we hang around. So
Hmm.
I love the team sports. That's why I liked volleyball more than swimming. I lasted longer in volleyball, even though
Hmm.
I was probably more gifted in swimming, like
Oh,
physically gifted. Um, because I love the team sport that we all contribute to a huge goal, and that um, and even the specialist side of volleyball, similar to football,
hmm.
where you need that other person because they're taller, smaller, faster, stronger. They're different than we are, and that we need each other to to get to a level that we wouldn't have gotten to without the group. And I work on a team now. I know real estate can be an individual sport or a team sport. I prefer the team
Yeah.
um, because I just wouldn't be even sitting here today if it wasn't for my teammates in volleyball, like in a weird way, right?
Yeah.
I got to play up with these like fantastic players. I was never number one. I was like, I guess my senior year, I was like player of the year or whatever. But all of those years of playing, I was just on an awesome team. And that's what I have with my real estate team too. They make me better. They push me. They take my standards and up them. And my standards are, as especially as I told you, as a perfectionist, my
Yeah.
standards are high. And together we achieve more. I know it's like a really corny saying, but it's really true.
Yeah. And at the beginning, you said that you become the average of the people you hang out with. Tell me more about that because I totally believe, like, if you hang out in a barber shop long enough, you're going to get a haircut, right? Right? It's just true. And tell me about becoming the average of the people you hang out with. I think that is so true. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think I thought about real estate. I was a part of an amazing boutique brokerage before coming to Keller Williams, and I was the 22-year-old just getting started with these incredible people that not only are great realtors but high ethics, like just like awesome people to be around. And I want to say lovingly, I kind of grew out of them in a way, because I had my only a couple mentors. And then I was exposed to Keller Williams, where I realized there are hundreds or thousands of models to copy and follow. And it was in the recession when I moved my business. So I was only selling about 5 or 8 homes that, that bottom of the recession. And we call it the rice and beans era. So my husband and I were smart enough to not over leverage our houses and cars. And we weren't in a position in the recession where we were in a lot of debt, but we were living with just food and shelter resources, barely getting rice and beans. We were barely getting by. And then I decided, okay, well, I'm going to go get a real job because this isn't work. I'm making less than $20,000 a year selling real estate. So this isn't working. I'm going to go, wrote my resume, started interviewing, and Keller Williams found me and they said, why don't you just give this one last chance? So I went to a conference and I listened to Brian Kane, who's I'd love to introduce you to. Do you know Brian?
Oh,
he's in San Diego. And he was interviewed by Gary Keller, just the two of them. And Gary's like, as you know, he's like the Oprah Winfrey of real estate. He asks great questions, like the best, like you ask great questions. So I was like, I'm like Brian, I relate to him. I wrote down every single word he said and listened to one more interview, and I copied his business. He was selling 100 homes by referral.
Oh, wow.
And he was like my hero. And the minute I saw him on stage, I'm like, Brian Kane, I'm going to do what he does. And I went back home, selling 5 homes a year in the recession, eating rice and beans, and implemented his systems. And in 4 years was selling 100 homes by referral. I never met the guy. I just met him a few years ago for the first time. Like, he was seriously my hero. I never even called him.
Did you give him a big hug and say, thank you for impacting my life at this level?
Yes. I cried. I said, you're Brian Kane? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, you changed my life. Can you imagine being like ambushed by me? And I'm like 6'1", gigantic, and excited to see him. So I like scared him, right? And what's interesting about leadership and impact is he got on stage. It was his first time in front of 20,000 people, right? Speaking about his business. Nobody told him that their life was changed after that moment. He thought he like flunked out, right? Like, he thought it was a big flop. And he thought his biggest impact that day was that Cutco knives had their largest international sale the day after, because he said he uses Cutco knives, and everyone went out to the marketplace and bought Cutco knives. And he didn't know he changed my life. And so now we've become really good friends, and we run similar businesses. And I wouldn't be here today also with Brian's models and systems and Gary's ability to extract that information. And you can't change yourself if you don't see something's possible. It's not just like the how-to, right? Like, that was good that I got the how-to from Brian and Gary. But it was that I was like, that guy is just a regular guy selling 100 homes a year by referral. I'm like him, and I can do that too. We have to believe that we can do it. And then we need the tools to do it. And that's why I think our company is so amazing for sharing those models and systems.
Okay. I don't know if you can see my arms, chills. It's very warm in this room, and I have chills in that story because he didn't even realize the impact of him being on that stage and how we touch each other. I call it the ripple effect, and how when we make one small decision, his name's Brian Kane, right? Brian Kane decided to change his life. And then he stepped into a fear, because it's called Born to Be Brave podcast. And then I'm sure when Gary Keller called him and asked him to be on the stage in front of 20,000 people, he was nervous, right?
Oh, heck yeah. I would be.
Yeah. And so then he stepped into his fear, because I think there's only one way to overcome fear. You got to step straight smack into it, run into it. I run straight into my fears. And then he stepped onto that stage. Gary, who is amazing at stepping into fear and just sharing with us and asking these great questions, because my number one thing is ask better questions. The best question asker is going to get the best, information out of the situation. I always like to be the dumbest person in the room and then ask the smart people all these awesome questions.
Yes.
And look at that. Brian Kane was up there. He thought it was the Cutco experience, right? That they had great sales, right? But what really happened is that he completely impacted and changed Christina's life forever. And then Christina is impacting everyone in Boise and all her team and her children, because now your children look up to you and they can see that my mom did this. I mean, my mom did this. I can do anything. And I just look at like that impact. The reason I'm stepping way out of my comfort zone on a daily basis is because I have grandkids now. And I look at my grandkids, right? I looked at Claire when she was born 2.5 years ago. And I just thought I'm made for more.
Mhm.
And I want Claire to know that if she ever feels like she's made for more, that she can look at her grandma and she can say, my grandma did all this stuff. I can do anything. And
Yeah.
I just think that the ripple effect is just Brian Kane. Yeah, we have to interview him.
Well, I'll connect you guys. You'll like him. He's really cool. And you're so close to each other. You guys can meet in person.
Yeah, he can come up here.
Yeah. Yeah. He, I love that you went to our children or our children's children for impact too. That's really impactful for me.
Yeah, tell me about your
think
kids. You have kids, and then what is the impact you want to have for them? What's the legacy? Like, what advice do you have for your kids to share that with people? What tell me about your kids, and then what kind of advice and impact do you want them to know? What's the one message you want your kids to know for sure at this point in your life?
Well, becoming a mother was the best thing I ever did. And I had this love for real estate, a love affair, I'd call it. And I was worried about what life would be like with, being responsible for these little people. And it's made me a better leader. And it's the best job I've ever had is to be their mother. So Spencer's 7, he's in first grade, and Emma is 4, and she's in preschool. Doing a double drop off now. So that's exciting. Like they drop off at the same time, pick up. That's life changing, and not wiping as many bottoms as I used to. So there's like lots of upgrades happening, but new challenges are happening in our house. Like they're negotiating with me, and they're so cute. I don't know how, I'm a good negotiator, but gosh, like their faces are so cute. I don't know what to do.
Kids are the best negotiators ever. There's no one better than a little kid.
I know. They're so good. They don't forget a thing. They remind me of things I tell them. And yeah, they're fascinating people. And Emma's a challenge. She's we have a joke in the family that I come from a long line of powerful women. And every generation we become more powerful, and Emma's the most of all of us. But I have an incredible grandma, my mom's mom. Actually, my dad's mom too. I have 2 grandmas still alive. My mom's mom and my mom were both working women. And I think that in their generation, that was unique. And so, and that's the challenge for moms right now, is that we fought for the right to do what men do for longer than we probably should have, but we've fighting and fought. And we're still keeping our God's given gift, which is to be mothers. Like and I'm a dominant, more like I act like a man sometimes in some ways. But when I became a mom, wow, it was like inside of me. It's just like who I am is to be their mother. And I think differently than my husband too, which is why we need each other, I think, as partners. But I just, even if I have a lot of leverage at home to help me with the kids, my mind is still on them at all times. And that's what's really surprised me about motherhood, is that I just love them so much that my brain is not fully, it's always with them and on them. What I want for them, I want them to be like self-reliant, like impactful human beings that change their life and change others. I think the ways that we can get there is to have a love of learning. And so one of the ways to get there is a love of learning. And so it's been really important for my husband, Lane, and I to have a foundation of learning and improvement in our house and in our school. And that if we can get that when they're young, we don't have to worry. It's crazy how much money we spend for college. I'm spending money now on school, because if I can get them to love learning, then they'll go figure out the other stuff later. But if I don't get them to love learning, we've got a huge problem later. But it's the love of learning to us is curiosity, compassion, Taking an idea and going all the way to failure is another family value. And never
Can you
saying,
repeat that?
take an idea and go all the way to failure. So we catch ourselves sometimes trying to protect our kids saying, you can't do that. That's not possible, right? And we don't mean to. Like we do that to our loved ones. Like just we're trying to protect them.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a story to share about trying to protect Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in La Jolla on a family trip, and we were by the ocean, and he snuck home like a little barnacle from the ocean. He's like stole, in my opinion, he stole a live animal. Okay, so there's like many lessons there, right? So we got to our little Airbnb and we realized he had an animal. And so we were everyone was hungry. Like there was some screaming going on because of hunger, that kind of hunger with little ones. And so we're like, we'll go back to the ocean, bring him back, the barnacle back. And we forgot about him. Like we all just totally forgot. So the next morning we found the little like shell barnacle on the ground. And my husband and Spencer was really upset about it because he loves animals and we were all worried the animal is dead. And we told Spencer that the barnacle is dead. And he said, I think that he holds ocean water inside his shell. I think he might be alive. And we're like, there's no way. Like it's been like 14 hours. There's no way that he's alive. But Spencer kept like being curious and like talking about like things he's learned. And so finally I realized what I was doing to him is I was telling him he can't do that or it's not possible or whatever. And that we have to take it all the way, curiosity, all the way to the finish line and go check and it's just a hypothesis. So like, let's just go prove it. So we all walked down to the ocean in our pajamas, like early in the morning, and we put the barnacle in a bucket of water and he was alive. And and we released him back to the ocean. So the lesson that I learned from that as a mom, even though that was a family value, is I still do it unconsciously, as I hold them back and I don't want to hold them back. And I want them to take it. And I don't want to protect them from failing. I want them to actually fail because there's so many lessons in those failures.
I love that. And I think that it gets passed down to us generationally. And also the brain just wants to be safe. Our brain wants us to make sense of things and it wants to keep us safe. And so we naturally process things that way. There was one other family value you wanted for your kids before I interrupted you. Do you remember what it was?
Oh, the other thing I want to see them, because I just know it's a success tool, is grit.
Grit.
And I think grit comes from, you can get grit from so many places, right? But that going to failure, that part like where we take it all the way to failure. I think athletics teaches us grit, but I don't think it's the only path. I used to think that athletics was the best path because I am an athlete. My parents were athletes. But I think that you can get grit from any kind of passion and putting the time and the work ethic into music or ballet or sports or, there's so much around STEM now, like science and technology and engineering. And I just think there's like so many directions our kids can go. Owning their own business. My kids door knock. My kids want, my son, yes. My kid, actually Spencer's into it now. Emma is too. They're into money right now. And Spencer's into buying Pokemon and Emma's into buying jewelry. And I'm like, you guys are little spoiled brats. I'm not going to keep buying you stuff. Like you guys got to go get a job. We just keep joking about a job. Yeah. It's 7 and 4. And so they came up with they came up with an idea I had to make something stop. They came up with an idea to make money. And their idea was that I go buy toys and then they go sell toys door to door. And so they're learning about paying, an investor paying me back, pricing things. Like we bought dollar store toys and put them in a wagon and they're selling them right now for Christmas gifts. And Spencer wanted to sell them for $3 because he's like, cool, I can make $2 per unit. And I'm like, but it's $3 for a cheap toy fair. So we're having all these great conversations about what is fair to deliver a toy to someone's door, what to charge them, and then also how to pay back the investor and then split profit with your business partner. And that's been a challenge for him because he feels like he's doing all the work, but he has his little sister, Emma, helping him.
Uh-huh.
And I keep explaining to Spencer, I was like, that cute face. And she says, thank you. See you next time. Every door. Thank you. See you next time. She's planting little seeds. Like she's his business partner. And so they've made like $100, like selling toys door to door. It's been awesome.
What an experience for them.
Yes. And people are recognizing me when I go to door. I'm not talking about real estate, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's been amazing the conversations we've had with the neighbors about real estate, like as a side note. It's been so fun to do that with them. And it's a brave thing to do, to ask. And they're getting some no's, they're getting some yeses, they're getting some tips, which is kind of annoying because I feel like
They're getting tips.
people are being generous, too generous.
That's okay. You know what? That thought that just came to me. I think it's fantastic they're getting tips, because when my son had cancer, I asked God what the first day they showed us that he had cancer everywhere and that it was like a very serious situation. And this made me cry. I didn't really expect to cry, but that night, because I had to act very normal and natural at the hospital that day in front of my son. But when I got home, I was talking to God, and I'm like, what's the lesson you want me to learn? And I want to learn it right now. I'm all in. Whatever it is that I'm supposed to learn from this, it's not going to take me months or years. I'm in. Tomorrow morning, I'm in. I've embodied whatever it is. And he said, you're a really great giver, but you're a really crappy receiver, is the voice I heard in my head. He said, you'll become a much better and gracious giver if you become a gracious receiver. He goes, you've said no to over 200 people who've reached out to you and asked what they can do to help you in the last 10 days.
Wow.
And I had to pause for a second, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's right. I've texted everyone back. I'm fine. We're fine. Don't do anything. We're fine. I said, okay, tomorrow morning, I'm going to text everyone, because this was like at 2:33 in the morning. No one wants to hear from me, right? I was back at the hospital at 6. And then by about 9 o'clock, I texted all 200 plus people. I copied and pasted the same thing. Anything you feel inspired to do for the Lowe family, we would love to receive it. Right. And I copied and pasted it to everyone. So let's let them be gracious receivers, because I think that there's something about we don't, and I didn't realize this till Carter had cancer. Mm-hmm. There's something about us culturally or in our families, or I don't know where it comes from. I haven't thought about it, but it bothers us when people try to give us stuff. Mm-hmm.
And we're holding, and sometimes people want to help so badly, it's part of their healing process. Like in your scenario, saying no to someone, or no, we don't need anything, makes them feel helpless. And when they want to do something, like they just want to help.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. How have you done that? I mean, I'm like learning. This is my best lesson from today, I think. How have you learned to just accept people's gifts? Besides you took action right away. That was so rad. But
so
how do you do that?
Since that happened, I say yes to everything. And it's crazy because it looked like my son, it was pretty serious. Like my son had cancer in his lungs, his kidneys, his hip bones, his sacrum bone, his throat, his lymph nodes. And I'm really big on God, and I have a close relationship with him. And I really believe that if my son was going to live, if there was a chance my son was going to live, I had to make sure I learned the lesson and that I went all in on it. And then what's interesting is because it's easy to say we're going to learn the new lesson instantly, but then the old habits come back in. So at first I texted everyone, and then people started doing stuff for us, right? I mean, a massive amount of stuff for, meals, and people doing laundry and cleaning and visiting us and taking care of our dogs, and just a million things. And I got really good at it, right? Mm-hmm. And just receiving the love, right? And just being filled up. And then my office wanted to, my team leader and 2 agents, especially one agent in my office, and Jennifer, and my team leader. Oh my gosh, I'm in love with her, and I can't think of her name right now. She lives in Michigan. John, what's her name?
As you're thinking about your babies, like I just explained, our brains doesn't work fully because we think about our babies.
yeah. John's going to look it up. I'm in love with her. I know her. I can see her face. Ron Patuski is her coach, and she just started coaching with him. I mean, becoming a coach with him. Anyway, John will look it up. But what happened is they reached out. They came to the hospital, or they wanted to come to the hospital. They ended up meeting them here at the house one night. and they wanted to remodel the house and have the house be all nice for Carter when he came home from the hospital. He'd been,
Wow.
and I thought, oh, that's just too big, like that's I felt like it was such a big gift. Do you know what I'm saying? Not just like doing your laundry or bringing food, or like someone even flew my kids out, my daughter and her husband, they surprised us 3 times and they had them come visit us and just had them show up at the hospital. We didn't know they were coming, but this gift seemed like it was just too big, right? And but I had made that promise. I said, let me, and so I met with them and they told me they wanted to redo everything. Oh, Amy Osterbeck. Yeah, see, Amy.
Oh,
I
she's
love her.
cool.
Yeah, she's awesome. She was our team leader at the time. And then it's so funny when I meditated and prayed on it that night. It came to me, you promised that you would learn this lesson, that you said you were all in. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I did. I said I was all in. And so I texted Amy back the next day. I said, we're in. And it is crazy. They had 100 people like in a week. They one day 50 people came, another day 100 people came, another day people donated tens and tens of thousands of dollars. And a team in our office has a foundation, a nonprofit, the Anderson Group. So all the money funneled through them. And then what they
Wow.
did is they came and they redid all our landscaping. They painted the house and inside they got Carter new furniture and paint, and they redid the living room, the kitchen, I'm talking, just the whole house, bathroom. And then they weren't going to do my bathroom. And then we cleaned out the garage because it was like a hoarder's house, and then they got a big dumpster and we filled up the dumpster in a day. And it's so funny is that I guess I didn't know this, but while somebody was in painting in the bathroom in my bedroom, and we picked out all these cute colors and they let us pick everything. And I guess someone didn't like that my bathroom was really ugly and gross. And so I guess somebody posted in our our office group that, hey, who wants to remodel Colleen's and John's bathroom for him? Because this is gross. We need more money. And it's so cute that another agent that I just love and adore, who a top realtor, she donated the money. She said, go buy all the new stuff. I'll
Wow.
remodel Colleen's bathroom. I didn't know this happened in the background. Do you know what I'm saying? And then, because I'm like, oh no, I don't think we're doing the bathroom. And yeah, all new stuff, lights and vanity, everything, And it's just interesting that when you let it happen, when you trust in the unfolding and you trust in God and in the process of like he said, that was my lesson, right? And what I've learned is, one, the house, it was so nice to bring Carter home to a new house, new energy. We
I
didn't
bet that
know.
made him feel so loved
Yeah,
after
right.
his hardest time to like.
Yeah, crazy, right? And we didn't know at the time when they did this if Carter was going to live or die. We still had we were either going to be living in a new home, having to process the loss of our son, or we were going to be living in a new home with our son here and healed and having a miracle, because he still wasn't responding great to the chemo. He still had a lot of tumors. And so at that moment in juncture, we either knew we were going to be processing loss, a severe loss here at the house, or we were going to be celebrating a huge miracle here. But it's amazing how your environment really impacts you, because my old colors were bright reds and yellows and greens, really bright and vibrant. And everything we picked was soothing earth tones and seafoam greens and blues and very calming and grounding, grays. And so I think at different times in our lives, we need different colors around us and in our environment. But I think that the thing that I learned most from receiving such greatness was that I'm such a better giver now. That the way that I preface things, or even when I check on people who have severe trauma in their lives, like somebody who texted me said, you don't need to respond to this text. I just wanted you to know. And that's such a great way to start a text when you're sending it to someone who's had a loss or a shocking situation, because then they don't feel like, oh, I need to respond to this, but then they know they're loved. And I just learned, so like somebody, I didn't even know this one woman. She came to clean my house with another lady I know. Because my friend asked if she could bring friends. I'm like, more people want to come clean my house? More will get clean. That sounds good to me. And this woman, when she was here, I kept coming home from the hospital while they were still here. And she said, I love doing laundry. Would you mind if I started doing your laundry for you? And I said, are you for real? She goes, yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh. So she would come twice a week and pick up our laundry and take it and then do it and then bring it back all folded, all our laundry. And the
Amazing.
laundry was the biggest stressor for me because working, selling houses, having a kid at the hospital, it was a lot. And then Carter would say, Mom, I'm out of clean clothes. I'm like, oh crap. So I'd have to stop and do laundry. She's one of my best friends in the whole world now. She lives in Boise. She moved to Boise. Isn't that funny? She lives,
That's your Boise friend. I want to meet her.
yeah,
Oh my
she's awesome.
gosh.
She moved to
That's amazing.
Boise. We were at the California Grand Hotel together, went to Disneyland together. But what's interesting is she's one of my best friends now out of doing laundry because my kid had cancer, right?
Wow. People teach us how to give. And sometimes I hear people saying like, I'm going to give quietly. And I get that because that's a very humble thing to do, to not want credit or anything, just giving to give.
Mm-hmm.
But when we show people how to give, just like similar to how Ryan showed me how to sell 100 homes by referral, it shows us that it's possible. If we don't share or do it, that's an incredible story on how receiving more helped you give more. And I was surprised when I met you how much time you gave me, my friend that needed help too, like how we got connected. Like that, you're an amazing giver.
Oh, thanks. It's amazing how we're all connected, right? And I think that I've been through hell. I've been through like severe hell. And I feel like my mission in life now, my divine purpose is to take buckets of water back to the people who are still consumed by the flames and just help them process their hell with a little more grace and love and compassion for themselves and their situation. So it's interesting. I feel like because I think no one escapes. Everyone has stuff that happens in their lives.
Mhm.
And we don't know what the future holds. I loved what you said at the beginning about we just have this present moment, right? And the brain, I've really been studying the brain a lot because the brain's so tricky. And it's the brain that makes us think how things are and how we process life and our perceptions and what actions we take, right? The stories we tell ourselves. And I was just wondering, what habits do you have in your life? Like, what are the small daily things you do that, like, do you have a morning routine or before bed routine, or what are some things you do on a daily basis that could help the people who are listening and watching that to help them have the mindset to sell 100 homes or 1,500 homes, right? What does it take to do that? How do you get to be like that?
Well, first, everybody needs to stop comparing their insides to other people's outsides, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I get that a lot. Like, how do you do it all? I'm like, I don't do it all, duh.
Yeah, nobody does,
all
right?
the all this social media comparison needs to stop. And we all need to just be more real and give ourselves grace for the total chaos we're all living in. But I do I feel like my routine's maybe not as good as it's been in the past, but I've had bits and pieces of early rising for sure. Like
Mm-hmm.
I always get up early, reading, meditation, exercise, or like some of those things, maybe not all. I'd really like to get to doing it all. Since I broke my foot 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I started, it was the start of the pandemic, so I used to be a 5 a.m. exerciser, like 5 a.m. at the gym.
Oh, wow.
And I realized that was pretty unhealthy actually, even though I was very consistent.
Mhm.
Because I was going to sleep really late, and then the drive to get up that early, like pretty much 4 o'clock, and get to the gym, I wasn't sleeping enough. And so I've really put a huge focus on, it might mean that I don't meditate, pray, read, or exercise if I'm having one of those days where work is all consuming. And so I'm making sleep more of a priority. And my goal is 7 hours. So instead of waking up at a certain time, I have a goal to go to bed at a certain time and wake up at the same time. But if I just have a bad day, I'm just like, well, I'm just going to like exercise for 10 minutes or something instead and sleep 7 hours. So I'm putting sleep as a priority. Another thing that has been really helpful for me as a recovering perfectionist is forgiving myself on a daily basis and forgiving others.
I love
And I
that.
have a meditation that I love, and it's from Dr. Matt James through NLP, Neuro Linguistic Programming.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a 10-minute meditation of forgiveness. And you bring everybody onto stage in your mind. and you like let go. Like it's like a visualization of like of letting go. And in this last year as a giver, I felt a lot of betrayal. I've had team members behind my back or, leave and work together. I was sued over mold that I had nothing to do with, but someone sued me over something. And then I had a past employee collecting unemployment and she was making money somewhere else. So I got a lawsuit around that. She was stealing money. And there's just been a lot of betrayal. It feels like a lot of betrayal in the last year, a lot of things happening where I'm just like giving and giving and giving and then feeling taken advantage of. And what I realized first is I need to forgive myself. And because I do have my DNA isn't all that, right? Like I have part of all, that's not like their fault. I'm perfect and they've done everything wrong. Like my DNA is in everything, even the mold situation where I'm like, how am I getting sued for mold 2 years later in a trade? They weren't even my clients anyways, but regardless, I have my DNA in that, and there's always a lesson to be learned. And then also they're forgiving myself and forgiving them. And that has been, it helps so much with that. Like, what do people think of me, and spending too much time in my head over things not going just perfect is the forgiveness exercise. Some sort of prayer forgiveness exercise is my advice for a daily routine.
Is that on YouTube? Is that something we can put in the show notes, or is it where?
I have an app and I pay for the app to get it.
And what's his name?
Dr. Matt James.
Dr. Matt James. So it's an app that you can pay for. Okay, guys, you can go get it.
He's wrote a great book too. It's called Mental Emotional Release, and talk about transformational coaching. Like both my husband and I have done a full 2-day session on mental emotional release, and it's changed our marriage. It's changed the way we react to things. Like we all have baggage, and some of us have like a really big backpack of baggage. And those folks that have the big backpacks, they've gone through major trauma, right? Like stuff that I can't even, like I'll cry if I talk about it, about what people have gone through in their childhood. My backpack's a little bit smaller. My trauma is not, it's my middle class white girl trauma. It is nothing compared to what others have gone through, but it's still my trauma, right? Like it's my hard times. It's the hardest of times I've ever gone through personally. And so my husband and I have really worked on letting go of that programming and baggage from maybe even the day we're born all the way to the age of 7 through this mental emotional release process that Dr. Matt teaches on. And it has changed. We just don't inappropriately react to things. You know how we inappropriately react to, just like we all have it in us, right? And those are the thorns inside us.
All of
yeah.
us.
So we have less, we're still human beings, but we have less inappropriate reactions to things since working on ourselves.
And isn't it fun to evolve and change and just let go of things that are heavy?
Yeah.
I think that letting go of things that are heavy it's so freeing.
It is. I just got a message from our team leader here in Boise, and she sent me like a screenshot of all of the sales from the top agents we have 700 agents in our little Boise, Idaho office. We're in the top 20 in the world. Usually it's a really productive office. And she sent me a picture and it showed my team as number 3. And she said, she's like, look at you. You've had less time, more time at home, more time working on yourself, and it's your best year ever. And she said, this is she said, it's a testament to the team, and it's a testament to me working on me first instead of trying to be perfect and helping all these other people.
When you prioritize yourself, like you've done this last year, right? And you make yourself a priority, and you slow down and you pay attention and you take those moments for quiet and listening, look at what happens. You got a text.
And you think like do more, like work harder, like, go is the way to increase success. But we're like, our time is limited. And another thing Gary said last week was your work ethic is killing your business. What he meant by that?
He said that.
He said, your work ethic is killing your business.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could say it's killing your life too, but he was just talking about how like our head is down
Mm-hmm.
and we're working so hard. We're all the top producing agents in the country. And we're not looking up. Just we're missing opportunity. We're missing like not even work opportunity, just opportunity in general. And we need to get our heads up and work on ourselves more and work on our business instead of in our business so much.
That's fantastic. And I think that we wear busyness as a badge of honor, you
It's
know?
such a cultural thing.
Mhm.
What the heck?
Yeah. And it has nothing to do with personal fulfillment and joy and living in appreciation and connection with others. No kid ever says, "Isn't that great? My mom is so busy, she doesn't have time for me. My mom's so busy, she can't be at any of my stuff. My mom's too busy to talk or listen to me." It's it's not where it's at. And I think it's so important that we serve our clients at the highest level, and but there's more to it. And when we do that, when we serve them at the highest level, we can be present for them. We have the emotional bandwidth to help them because we feel like when you're on an airplane and they tell you when emergency, put your mask on first, and then you put your kids on. You gotta put yours on first, and then you can fill up other people. Even we can't fill people up when we're empty. Congratulations on that text. Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing. And it feels like, I mean, it's been a hard year in some ways, but it's been easy in other ways. Like getting into the flow and
Mm-hmm.
really like leaning in to who I am and being okay with it. And even not being at the office, I got this thing in my head like, oh, I should be at the office. I should be showing them what work ethic looks like when I've been like working too hard and not sleeping, like I told you, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
living a 16 years at an unhealthy situation when they're happy when I'm not here. Like I was just getting in the way, I think.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? And when you hire talent that they're autonomous. They have the freedom to do their job and bring their talent to it and shine in their own way. And I want to talk about this rest thing because I think that there's this idea that successful people, you have to get up at 5 a.m. You have to be at the gym and post on your social media that you're there working out at the 5 a.m. club. I see a lot of people do that, you know? And I just think that that doesn't work for everybody. And I don't think there's any one set routine that is going to make you be successful. And I think that sleep is so important. If you don't get a proper amount of sleep and rest, over time, it's really going to add up and really drain you. And it's going to reflect in everywhere because you cannot wake up and excited to seize the day if you're exhausted.
I heard a study that if you're really sleep deprived, you'll start acting drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, like around those times, the babies were babies, and
Mm-hmm.
and I was nursing and selling. My team is selling 150 homes a year, so nursing part-time job. I did the math. That takes 20 hours a week to just nurse a baby, and then to sell that real estate. And I was sitting in listing appointments, saying what I always say, and I couldn't come up with the words.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the shock to me. But for some reason, I knew it then. It wasn't until I broke my foot and the pandemic started that I really got serious about the sleep thing and the gift of look at all the gifts that's happened in the last year and a half. The gift of learning how to work out from home.
Mm-hmm.
Although I do like people, and I think that there's a huge benefit in working out with a tribe. I'm not against that, but there's been many gifts to the lessons on getting people to come hike with me from my home or
I
just
love the
going.
hiking. I'm going to go on a hike with you sometime.
Come to Boise and visit your friend. We'll go for a hike from my house.
Yeah, we can go. She'll love it.
Yeah.
And I'll love it. And you know what's so amazing is I looked at this pandemic. I know a lot of people have been negatively impacted, you know, and my heart goes out to them and I love them so much. And I just know for me, I used to have 50 people over, 40 to 50 people over every second Sunday of the month for the last, I don't know, 20 years, 15 years. I don't know how long I've done that. and feed all these people. And they, people bring stuff, potluck. If people bring stuff, great. If they don't, but I make sure there's plenty of food, and I have to get my house ready and all this tables and chairs, and my family has to clean up. And it's a big production, right? And the pandemic made it so we didn't have to do that. We didn't do that anymore, right? And I thought it was going to be this awful thing. And you know what I found out? I don't like doing those dinners anymore.
What a gift.
Yeah.
So many gifts and blessings from the last year and a half, or new lessons, new ways of doing things. You're right. Like there's been some really hard times, like hard for people, really sad times, and also a lot of great lessons. And I think when we focus on like the gratitude and the lessons, what can we learn from this? Instead of, especially even like reflecting on like what I called betrayal in the last year.
Yes.
Instead of like, is this why this is happening for me? It's not happening to me. And I've heard that saying before, but it got so real this year. It was so real.
And every little thing we learn. And when we can let go, I feel like, don't you feel like your mental capacity to live in appreciation and live in the moment and let go and forgive gets stronger, just like working out in the gym? The more we practice our mental acuity and alertness, then the stronger it gets. And it just becomes more of a habit and second nature. And it's just easier. Are you noticing that?
Yes. And I started letting go with my clients first, letting go with what they think of me, letting go of trying to be perfect for them. And now it's working on my key relationships. That's harder, I think, because those guys are so important. Yeah. But it's also, it's easier because of the practice and the, we just do our best, right? Like that's all we can do. Just be our best, do our best, and forget the rest.
And let it go. The one of the things in the book that I just wrote, that I'm a chapter in a book, and it says, trust God, let go, trust in letting go, let it go. You got to let go, because that's where the freedom is.
And peace, like so much peacefulness.
Yeah. Peace and freedom and joy are all in the space of letting go of what people think, being upset over what people do. You don't have control over what anyone else does. We only have control over us.
And it's inside them. And I think that right now too, people are suffering more than we know, even though people tell me a lot, and I listen and hear them, and I, as an empath, I take it on and help them. But there's still more going on with people than we even know. And so making it about like our feelings being hurt is very selfish. And when we make it about them, like, oh my gosh, they must, say somebody yells at us, they must be really suffering. I wonder what's wrong, like what's really going on. And that empathetic response takes it away from us and our feelings from getting hurt, but also puts it on them, which is who needs it right now. They're the ones that need help.
Do you know, last night, you're the second person to say that to me in less than 12 hours. Last night, I was with one of the other authors, and we were talking over dinner. And she said that one of the things she's glad she taught her children was that when people would yell at them, or somebody was upset with them at a school situation or sports or whatever it was, but that person must be really hurting, and that they were lashing out. And it's the same thing, right? That person's hurting, and let's send them love and peace. I mean, that doesn't mean we don't have boundaries, and
right. But it makes us more empathetic. It's a really cool response.
I think that people are really hurting, and more than we think right now. And this is my last big question for you. I mean, I have a million other questions, but this is my last big question for you. What else should I ask you and talk to you about that I haven't asked you about that would be inspiring for our listeners and our watchers? What else should we have you share with them?
Love that question. You're so awesome. Well, one thing I think that we started, like we have so much to talk about. We could probably talk for like 5 hours and be good, be good for us, but maybe boring for others to listen to us for 5 hours straight. Yeah. But one thing that I think we are kind of going on is like the how to do it all, and something that's transformed in my business is so that I can put my family first and myself first,
Mm-hmm.
is to create as much cookie cutter systems as possible. And I
Mm-hmm.
used to think cookie cutter is not personal because my business is so personal, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
relationship based and first, I mean, I just love people. Like I get lost with people. I lose track of time. I love people. I realized though that as the business grew, I can't, even with the intention to be so personal and give such great service, I can't do it for everybody
Mm-hmm.
because of our limit on time. And so we've created a lot of systems on everything that we do that's repeated. And anybody listening that has any kind of business or does things over and over again, it's a slow down to speed up. But once we made our business cookie cutter in a way, we can personalize it on the outside. And I think that's another thing that Gary Keller said with our work ethics killing our business because our heads down, fixing things, working hard, go, go, go. And our head's not up to see that somebody else needs us or something else is going wrong that really needs our attention. And so we've spent the last year looking at every single thing that we do that can be repeatable or that somebody else can do. And that's how I think like the top of any, and not me, but like the top like most successful people do it all is they really do very little. And they found ways to find other people or other systems to do it as good or better than them. And that has been the most fun transformation of the last year too, is watching my team members do it and do it so well, and watching my clients get that service, and then seeing that I'm whole and not suffering. Because I was really the one that was like, give, 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 give everything, and then come home so depleted. And now I get to come home feeling fulfilled. And I think I'm hoping everybody else in my world is feeling fulfilled too.
I love that. And then you can, and then you're loving your life.
And it's still hard though.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's new, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it's even like, what do I do now? Like I've had a little bit, it's still very busy, right? But I've had like a little bit of the first time in 16 years, like, everybody's doing everything. Everyone's being taken care of. So now what? And that creates creativity. Like what's next? That's what Gary was talking about, is giving that space to think and create or find new relationships.
Yes. And I think that it's in those open spaces. Like yesterday, I sat on a rock and at the edge of the ocean. Our publisher, this is what I loved about 2 nights ago. I sat with our, publisher. She's brilliant beyond comprehension. And I just listened. A lot of people, it's so funny. And other people, they're talking a lot. And anyway, but I waited until the end. And then I asked her, can I ask you some questions? And she said, sure. Anyway, and it was just mind blowing. I mean, I was just like, oh, I wish I had my phone so I could record everything she was saying. But what's interesting is she shared that we should go to this rock and sit on this rock, that it has so much energy,
Cool.
and so we went and did it yesterday, and it was raining, but it ended up having a break in the rain, and we decided we didn't care if it was raining or not. We were going to go sit on the rock. Old Colleen would have never gone in the rain and sat on a rock, but anyway, um, we just sat there, and the waves are coming up, and some birds came and sat next to us, but just sitting there in the moment and thinking and meditating and being just being. And now you've created this team, right? And so you have pockets of space where you can start thinking about what is Christina, what's next for her, what's possible for her. Can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you.
It's
Excited
exciting.
too. Can't wait to see what you do next.
I'm so excited. Isn't it amazing? I wanted to say thank you so much for taking time to join us today, because you have such a good energy. And I know that somebody or some buddies listening today are going to be completely inspired and touched. My goal is for people to have like awakenings, like they get like, oh, I never thought about that before. Maybe I should look into that. Or I just want this to be a resource for people to start filling in the gaps on living their best life and letting go of the things that no longer serve them well. And I just appreciate you so much. Where can people find you, especially if they want to move to Boise? How can people find you online?
So awesome. Thank you for being a resource to people and making the ripple effect. Christina Moore Ward is my Facebook and Instagram name. And I'm almost out of Facebook friends. Not so Instagram might be better. Christina Moore Ward, Moore, and then ChristinaandCompany.com for real estate. And thank you, Colleen, I learned a lot from you today. Like I learned some really great lessons about giving and receiving. So thank you for sharing. And
I'm so glad you took that in. That's good.
It was good.
Yeah.
I'll let my kids go get more tips now.
Get them to bring all the tips on. Give those people big hugs and say thank you so much.
So amazing and generous. And that's making them get magnetically attract even more that abundance. How dare I hold down their abundance factor?
Yeah, it's something we've been taught. I don't understand it, but it's true. I didn't even know I had that spot, right? It was God who pointed it out to me. I'm like, I'm a good receiver. And literally in that moment, God said to me in my head, well, how come you told 200 people you don't need any help? That's what he said back to me. I'm like, oh, ooh, you did call me out on my crap. I am a crappy receiver. Right? Isn't that crazy?
So good. Holding a mirror like right in front of our face. So that's where transformation occurs.
Yeah. And because my son's life was in the balance, I literally said yes to anything, even the crazy remodel. Isn't that, oh my gosh. And awesome. I'm so grateful because I look around my house and I see the love of my office because like you said, people don't know what to do and they do want to help. And yeah. And it is amazing that you find out in those moments how much people really do love you, right? Because like my office is amazing, like Amy and Jennifer and the whole office, not, I'm saying that they organized it, but the whole office showed up, right? And I just think to myself, there's just so much love, right? And if we can just tap into love and energy, then it's good. Yeah. When your kids take those tips and they just say thank you graciously, those people are going to love that.
Yes. And even they're learning to say thank you to the nose too, because
right.
There's a gift in the nose.
Yes. And it took me a long time to figure that out because I'm a high DI, from the disc thing too. And so I didn't realize how much I care about what people think of me. And I really don't anymore. I mean, I still do at some level, but I've really let that go. And it's amazing that it's very freeing. Even I thought, oh, I'll start the podcast and the YouTube channel, when I lose weight and get in shape and all that stuff. Because I gained so much weight when Carter had cancer because my coping skill, my survival skill was to get a pint of Ben and Jerry's ice cream on the way home from the hospital every night.
I would probably do that too.
Yeah. And I did it every night, like for real. And I would always say I wasn't going to do it on my way home from the hospital, but then I did do it on the way home from the hospital. And it's so funny is when we just give ourselves grace and love. And I decided I'm doing the podcast, no matter what, and just move forward. And then as it evolves, we just have to give ourselves love and grace and just love ourselves.
You decided.
Yep.
And the decide word is pretty incredible. Have you heard of like the breakdown of what decide means?
No, I want to hear it.
The side part, CIDE, genocide, suicide, side means to kill off. And deciding means to kill off all other options. And I've heard so much of your story today, and I think a lot of my story too. It's just like I heard Brian Cain, and I've just decided like we're doing this, right? There was no like, oh, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll do a little bit. Like it was just like I cut off all other options, and you did too.
Oh my gosh, I love to share that. That's the perfect way to end. I love you so much. Thank you I cannot wait to hug you and meet you in person.
Me too. Come to Boise, or I'll come down to. Oh, I'm coming to Disneyland, so I'll see you soon. We'll talk about that later.
Okay, we'll talk later. Mwah. Thank you, gorgeous. And just thank you so, so much. And John will turn
Thank
off our
you.
recording.